The medieval silver groat, everyone's favourite English denomination that gives collectors and numismatists a high variety of information and types to study. First introduced during the reign of Edward I, where the need for a larger coin in everyday life was high amongst traders and merchants, the groat was designed around the French gros, a larger silver denomination that was circulating around 20 years beforehand. But unfortunately for us, the groat was introduced and hated because it didn't weigh 4p worth of silver. In a time where the coin was literally worth its weight in silver, a silver groat was worth 4p and was expected to weigh the exact 4p of silver. Now, for those who might be new to the channel or completely new to English numismatics, the English groats may be hard to distinguish at first, and it might be hard then to put them into the correct series or types. So within today's video, I have a handful of medieval groats from 4 different periods of history under 4 kings and 5 different types. So let's go through the coins chronologically, starting with a groat from the reign of Edward III. Now, Edward III reintroduced the medieval groat in a time of great need, where inflation caused wages to increase, and this took up a lot of the minting power when first introduced during his first coinage or his pre-treaty coinage. But how do we know whether or not this groat was produced during his pre-treaty, treaty or post-treaty coinage? Well, more often than not, they will be from the pre-treaty period, like ours. Our coin bears the French title in the obverse legend that is the main giveaway for the series. When you become more accustomed to the coinage, you'll begin to pick up small design changes and bust varieties. So now that we've established that this is an Edward III pre-treaty groat, let's put it into a class 2. We can see straight away from the off that the C's and E's are closed, where the ends meet up, leaving it looking like a backwards D, and the M's are Lombardic, which is the style of lettering. And luckily for us, this puts this groat into class C or D, and the distinguishing factor between these two classes is the tail of the letter R. Class C displays a wedge shape that looks a little bit like a pizza, and class D doesn't. And as you can see, our coin is related to the former, with a wedge-shaped tail. On the reverse, the mint is within the inner legend, reading Civitas London, minted in the City of London. So we can pin this coin down to a pre-treaty groat, Series C, minted in London. Secondly, we have another groat from the reign of Edward III. Now, just like the first one, we have the French titles in legends around 8 o'clock, placing this into the, you guessed it, the pre-treaty period. We then have closed C's and E's, but do you notice anything different about the design on the obverse? That's right, we have an annulet under the king's bust. Now this places it directly into Series G, and on the reverse we have the City of London, and we also have an annulet between pellets and quarters, which is also an indication of this class too. So we know this is an Edward III groat, Series G, minted in London. Next we move into the 15th century during the reign of Henry VI. Now Henry VI provides one of the largest arrays of design changes throughout his reigns, with many pix changes over the years. The obverse displays the king facing, with 2 very obvious annulets either side of his bust. This is one of the most common groats under Henry VI, being produced in mass for the first 8 years of his reign. The largest denomination of his predecessors was scarcely minted, so Henry had his work cut out for him to provide the people with a newly produced coinage. Now the annulets beside the bust and on the reverse place this into the annulet issue coinage, produced during the years 1422 to 1430. The reverse displays the same reverse design of 2 legends, the outer legend translating to I have made God my helper, and the inner legend reading Villa Calais, for the town of Calais. And believe it or not, groats minted in London during this period are more scarce than those of Edward III. And this is because 1/3 of the Calaisian silver was produced during the first 5 years of Henry's annulet issue, and produced 4 times more silver in Calais than London. 40 years have passed and we now move on to Henry's nemesis during the 100 Years' War, King Edward IV. And just like Henry VI, we categorise Edward's coins into the first and second reign, with many varieties of different types. This is one of, if not the most common types of Edward IV's coins, bearing quatrefoils either side of the bust and bearing the sun initial mark. At this point you may begin to see some differences in the portraiture of each king, small changes to the crown, or if you have them in hand, the weight. As time went on, the price of silver increased, and to combat inflation, the coins would be minted lighter. Now this was minted during the light issue of Edward IV's reign, when he had minted the coins a bit lighter. The reverse displays the same two-legend design, and the mint reads "The City of London." Big thanks to GM Coins again for this beauty. And finally we finish with the first monarch of House Tudor, King Henry VII. Henry VII's reign marked the end of the standardised medieval portrait of the silver groat. The European Renaissance was in full swing, and Henry followed suit by issuing coinage with a very realistic portrait. Now, our example was minted before that sudden change, and can be easily distinguishable from the others from the arched crown. Henry VII's groats are the only groat with this design, and it makes for a fantastic and menacing looking coin. The reverse displays the two legends, and I don't know if you've noticed, but each coin displays subtle yet noticeable differences in writing style, with this one being larger, and for me, unique. So I hope you've begun to see the differences in medieval groats through the ages, and hopefully I'll be able to fill some gaps and show you them and their differences when I can. Be sure to let me know down below what you thought of today's video, and what medieval groats you have in your collections, ones you found detecting, and which one is your favourite. Thank you all for your continued support, and as always, keep collecting!